This is Tasmania's high lake country. The cold hand of winter serves to preserve and nourish the descendants of a handful of trout hatched over a century ago. Trout that travelled halfway around the world as tiny eggs packed in ice aboard a sailing ship. And on the shores of the lakes, some of today's fishermen, whose forebears brought the trout here, and created in Tasmania one of the finest wild trout fisheries in the world. Professional trout guide Ken Orr and local companions John Messel and John Toohey braved the conditions. After the winter rains and snow melt, the flooded lake and river margins can produce top-class trout on the wet fly right from the start of Tasmania's trout fishing season in August. It's cold, but the rewards are worth it.
Oh, man. Where do you reckon he going? No idea, but we'll soon tell. It's a touch over 6 pound, I guess.
And they keep on coming. As winter gives way to spring, the lake margins begin to warm up. The flooded tussocks and marshes begin to throb with life of their own. Native forage fish, small aquatic insects, frogs, and of course the brown trout moving into the shallows to feed. This is when the trout really start to put on weight and condition. And they put on plenty of it. The shallows may belong to the fly fishermen, but the deeper open waters are shared by the trollers and spin fishermen. Lake Sorell is one of many popular trolling waters in Tasmania. And the fish out here take just as eagerly and fight just as hard as those that fall to the fly. Wild brown trout are never short of spirit, whichever way you hook them.
Well, yeah. Oh, he's a bit better. Yeah, good. Go for it. Thanks. Good. Very nice.
Is that the same?
Yep. Silver too.
Yeah.
Took the spinner too.
Lake Sorell is a very popular place for families of all kinds to take a little time off. Especially early in the season when trolling is at its most productive.
Should be enough there for tea, I reckon. Enough for me, anyway.
A spring morning in the lake country. When the spring rains have swollen the rivers and lakes, the Tasmanian trout become really adventurous and start fossicking in the shallows for food. It's known as tailing and provides great sport on the wet fly. The tailing trout bulge the surface and display their backs, dorsal fins and tails. Val Dell is a Crown Land Warden. He's been catching trout in Tasmania's western lakes for years.
Really strong.
Val exploits these conditions to perfection. Val's companion, Rob Sloan, is the Inland Fisheries Commissioner and an angling author, another angler who knows his way around the shallows and marshes.
Not too bad. Well done.
Good.
Put it down there. I reckon there should be one or two more through here.
Yeah, there will be another one down there in the corner.
Could be some even further up that drain.
Yeah, no, there will. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful fish.
Yeah, nice little fish.
Great. You better see if you can catch the next one then. Oh, look at him.
If the fish are there, Rob and Val will find them.
See if you can get them both in one shot.
Of course, catching them is another matter. At one Tasmanian lake, these tailing fish are called the untouchables because they're so hard to hook. But Val seems to have the answer today.
Go on, Rob. He feels like a good fish too. Beautiful colour. Look at that. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, beautiful.
That's a little bit heavy.
And it isn't long before Rob follows suit with a couple of beauties of his own.
He's got some weight behind him. He's not too bad. Number one. He took it nicely. A little nymph there.
In the lowlands, the Macquarie River in spring is a very different fishing experience. Here, trout guide and tackle dealer Noel Jetson shares a favourite beat of the Macquarie with local angler Jan Spencer.
It's cold.
In her first couple of seasons with the fly, Jan has already taken several hundred trout from this stretch of river. From the large, slow-flowing major rivers to the tiny rushing creeks, Tasmania's vast network of lowland waterways support plenty of wild trout, which nature replenishes with each autumn spawning season, and which she feeds and fattens in the spring and summer.
Well, there's a few duns coming down. See the swallow, look? You'll take one there. Look at that. Tipped him off. Well, there's a few duns. Well, let's say we walk down along this bank. You go right away down to the willow there. We'll spread out a bit.
Fish may not run as big as some of the monsters in the lakes, but they're just as tricky to catch. In a little overgrown creek like this, the fly is almost impossible to use. But a single worm or a grasshopper later on in the season is a deadly bait. It's especially deadly in the hands of Viv Spencer. But this one's a bit too small. Viv's softly tactics pay off time and time again on little streams like this. Streams which many anglers neglect, but the fish are there. There goes another one, this time in even less accessible water. But it isn't just the lowland creeks and rivers that boast excellent fishing. There are plenty of streams in the lake country too. Again, the fish aren't as big as the ones that lurk in the lakes, but there are plenty of them, even if they aren't always biting. Tasmania's rugged west coast finds the angler in very different surroundings, hunting for sea-run trout. Every year, the trout come into the river mouths from the Southern Ocean along this stark coastline of wild beaches and temperate rainforests. And this is what they come for. Whitebait. Millions upon millions of them, migrating from the ocean to the tea-coloured rivers and streams. They provide easy prey for the resident brown trout and their sea-run relatives. And the trout themselves are hunted, though not caught so easily.
Just do a bit of spinning, I think. Been quite a few down there, bow waving and chasing the whitebaits the last couple of days.
Yeah.
People like Charles Thompson and companion come here not just to catch the sea runners, but also because the west coast of Tasmania is such a special place to fish for trout. At the end of a long day, the final reward. Trout like this, fat from the ocean. What a place to fish for trout. Further inland on the west coast, new hydroelectric lakes are adding new trout habitats and new places to enjoy safe, tranquil boating and fishing. By early summer, the weather in the highlands is warmer, and the lake country provides pleasant fishing.
There's one on this side of the strap where you ride along there.
But in this terrain, you can experience all the seasons in a single day. And professional trout guide Bill Beck finds the weather decidedly wintry when he takes a party out on Arthur's Lake. Because of a natural oversupply of good spawning grounds, Arthur's is probably Tasmania's most prolific fishery. For Bill, a bag limit of 12 trout is the rule rather than the exception here.
Pity about this bloody wind. Well, I'd like to take you out to the morass and round the back of the island, but it's just too rough. Fish is... Well, oh, here's one.
That was quick.
Yeah. Oh, this is about where we got them last time. They're not quite as big here, but there seems to be a fair few of them. On that cat fly again. Well, wasn't a very good day, wind-wise and fishing-wise. Well, at least we got enough to eat.
Yeah, well, we got to feed and might get a few more this afternoon. What do you reckon?
Oh, I reckon. This one When the butter melts off the top, she's just about ready.
Good enough to eat.
Yeah, can't wait. Definitely the way to eat them. Cook them while they're still kicking.
Yeah.
The trout at Arthur's Lake are all naturally spawned wild fish, not hatchery stocked, and you don't have to be an expert to catch them, which makes it an ideal family water. The heat of summer brings a new charm and a new atmosphere to the lake country. There's a sense of urgency and purpose in the swarms of caddis and mayfly that hatch and dance in the warm air above the tussocks. These warm summer days and prolific fly hatches draw the dry fly enthusiasts to the lakes.
Now, I think a red tag's a go. I'm going to stick a little red tag on.
Oh,
Just about a size 12, just a small one. Because if there was any beetles last night, they'll be still mopping them up,
Well,
hopefully.
you try that and I'll put a little G-high. A little, maybe a Great Lakes beetle on.
Yeah, a little G-high, that'd be
a
the
colour
go.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll Polaroid up along this shallow green grass, just on the inside of the weed bed. There's a heap of mayfly on the bank there, and if we get some calm patches, the mayfly will go out, and hopefully the fish will be along the shallows feeding anyway. And we'll just wander up here into the breeze, and hopefully we won't get too much cloud, and we can Polaroid fish in the shallow water.
Oh, look at this mayfly up here again.
The gentle art of Polaroiding.
I can't see him anywhere.
Jim Allen is a regular visitor to the Western Lakes. He and Dave Fennick are using Polaroid sunglasses so that they can spot the trout cruising in the shallows.
Going to rise to a natural now. No, he's not.
There he is.
Geez, a nice trout too.
Yeah, he's a good fish.
Yeah, my word. Come on, baby.
Good work.
Do all the right things. Geez, a big fish, isn't he?
Beautiful fish, yeah. You go to over 3.
Oh, look at that.
Might make 4.
Oh, he's a lovely trout. Look at him. They're beautiful, these wild brown trout out of these waters here.
One of the best trout in the world.
There we go. Yeah, the red tag's a magic little fly, David. It's those fish out there were rising to mayfly, and yet they'll still take the beetle, and it always works. It's just one of those flies that is always number one in my fly box.
It seems to be, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a good beetle pattern.
Polaroiding works best in the middle of a bright, sunny summer day, like this one at Lake Cay.
He's a nice fish. He's a nice fish too, no worries about that. But mind you,
Back at the hotel, a plan for another trip. Jim, David and a few friends are off to one of the more remote western lakes and seek some advice from guide Bill Beck.
Tell you what, when you drive down through Frodsham Pass now, heading to Scott's Peak, you've got to stop and wipe your windscreen because there's that many spinners splattered on it. It's the best spinner hatch you'll ever see anywhere now. The fish haven't come on them properly. There's duns and spinners everywhere.
Good fish. Yeah, I think we'll get some superb fishing. Well, it's been such a wet winter, and of course we had the late spring and it was wet right through until early January, and all the fish are in top condition.
We might be the first people to get camp out there.
Well, I think there'll be
this
other people that have got out there, but I think we probably won't get any trouble from any other campers or any other fishermen.
The best time for a trip like this is the late summer, when the weather is at its most reliable. The trip is an adventure in itself. It pays to be well equipped and ready for anything. There isn't a lot of traffic on this road. Not many trout get run over in Tasmania. But quite a few snakes do. This is a tiger snake, venomous, but an important part of the ecology. They have their place in this country. Generally speaking, if you leave a snake alone, he'll leave you alone. There's plenty of room for all of us. And anyway, this is what we have come here to catch.
Down, you kept on going, you see. That'll be it, that's the lining.
Oh, nice trout, look at that.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, that's got dinner on the way.
The mayfly hatches here make it a fly fisherman's paradise. Jim's about to discover a peculiarity of these trout.
They like it upside down.
Oh, down the corner there. They're on the damsel again.
Yeah, that's right. They're along the edge.
There's probably no one else in Tasmania enjoying themselves as much as these two.
He took the dryer, right, Jim?
Of course, you don't have to be a trout fishing fanatic to enjoy fresh mountain air. It's just great to be outdoors, camping and relaxing.
Hi, girls.
Here they are.
Oh, what a life, eh?
That's good. Good day.
We've been donging them.
We've been dogging them, all right.
Fish stuff.
Well, we've got them.
Well,
Look at these. Fantastic fish. We had a magic time. We're out on that bank. All on the dry fly.
Beautiful condition.
We got 13 of them. We only kept 4 because we're going to eat them tonight.
As autumn moves on and the days grow shorter, the evenings become a precious time for the fishermen. Precious because they'll soon be gone, as spawning gets underway and the season closes. As their spawn develops, the brown trout start their journey upstream to the shallow, gravelly riffles where they were born to carry out the same spawning ritual their parents did before them. First, a few at a time, then a few more, and quite soon, thousands and thousands. Although the trout fishing season is very nearly over, this is probably the busiest time of the year for the trout managers. The Inland Fisheries Commission staff strip eggs and milt from wild parent fish to provide stocks for the few Tasmanian lakes that lack natural spawning grounds. These eggs will also help to meet the demand for wild trout ova in the other states of Australia. The Commission staff also monitor the spawning runs and record details of trout numbers and growth rates.
Rainbow. $6.15. $2.8.
And they share their information when the Commission's Great Lake Field Station is opened to the public.
From there you'll actually calculate the fish when he's 1 year old, 2 year old. It's measured, we use a raw fish, it's measured from there.
There is no doubt that the key to the success of the brown trout in Tasmania is natural spawning. When the fish reach their final goal, the spawning grounds, they first select a site for the eggs. When they find a suitable place, the female digs a depression in the gravel with rapid tail beats. The male and female lie together, bumping, nudging and touching until the eggs are laid and fertilized. The eggs will now lie dormant until the spring, when a new crop of fighting browns will be born. The Tasmanian trout falls to many lures every season, but the trout itself exerts an irresistible lure to the angler. Tasmania has a trout fishery which is pure, unexploited and accessible to anyone for the modest cost of an angling licence. It is a truly remarkable wild fishery. Be tempted. Trout fish Tasmania.